Good morning and welcome to More Tea Minister. My name is Ian. Today we are going to be reviewing another dark tea. This one from first time I've reviewed a tea from this company. It's Eteaket Leaf Tea Company. I'm very pleased to say they're based out of Edinburgh. So they are natives and really not very far away from me either. This tea is from Korea and it's called Korean Jeju. Now Jeju, I'm sure I've mispronounced that, is a volcanic island that's part of Korea, and it's one of the prominent tea producing areas of the country. Now I am going to double check with the company later on today, and I'll be able to put any changes to the information into the description box, but from what I gather of this tea, it's another example of Korean Heukcha fermented tea, or more specifically a Heukcha. Now, confusingly, Heukcha means yellow tea in Korean, but it's not yellow tea in the Chinese sense, which refers to a very different processing standard. Heukcha really refers to the color of the brewed tea liquor. However, Heukcha or Heukcha points us to the fact that this is a fermented tea, a dark tea, a post-fermented tea, but also if this is the same as the other Heukchas that we've looked at from Korea, then what we've got is, as Eteaket themselves point out, it's a fermented black tea. In other words, it's a tea that's been allowed to oxidize, and then it's had post-oxidation fermentation, and then undoubtedly there's an element of oxidation taking part in that as well. So given the fact that this is a fermented dark tea, a fermented black tea, it makes me think that what we have here is another example of a Heukcha from a different part of Korea. Other than that, we're going to take a close-up look at the packaging and the tea in part 2 of this video. As I say, I will update the information when I have a chance to phone the company. How nice that they're local, that I can actually try and phone them. Anyway, on to part 2. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of our video. This is the first tea that I reviewed that comes from Eteaket, so I thought it might be instructive for us to take a look at their packaging, which is largely standardized. What we have at the bottom here in pale, and once we've had a look at the rest of the packaging, we'll come back and zoom on this. This is the tailored panel, so to speak, for this particular tea, Korean Jeju. It's a little difficult to read, especially at this distance when it's white on a pale blue, but we'll come back to that. We've got the logo here, stylized foliage. As I say, we've got the tailor-made panel for this particular tea. Let me turn this over. We've got information about what looks a little like a mindfulness program that Eteaket are keen to engage with and get others to engage with as well. We've got information about the company and recycling information down here, in fact, including the fact that the internal packaging can be recycled as well, which I wasn't expecting. Let's take it one step further. We've got information here about the ecological interests that the company has. That's up here. And a charity, Cuppers for Causes, which they're involved with. I should point out that this lighter blue paneling here looks as if it can be detached, and I might do that to see what's underneath. Turning it over one more time, we've got more the tea mind system, what looks a little like mindfulness in a threefold element, and then we've got generalized brewing parameters for black, oolong, green and white tea, and infusion tea. So what we're going to do is pause this, and then we'll have a look at what's underneath the blue what looks like a removable element here. Before we do that, I said I would take a close-up at the slogan, or the Let's bring that into the middle. Let's just take a look at what information we have. Ah, that's much more legible, isn't it? So this tea is Korean Jeju, fermented and aged black tea from the volcanic island of Jeju, a rich and aromatic cup. It's black, 40 grams of loose tea, small batch. Back in a mo. So here we are taking a close-up look at the tea itself. In case you were wondering, the detachable bottom part of the packaging, it's blank underneath on the box itself, so I haven't taken that any further. The packaging inside is a sort of cellulose-looking material, which we've already said is recyclable, and the tea comes in a non-vacuum packing. It's some kind of atmosphere inside. Taking a look at the close-up to the tea, you can see it's pretty uniform in colour. There is a paler piece of stem material over here, which you may or may not be able to see. If I move it into the middle, you definitely can. Otherwise, the tea is relatively uniform in size and colour. Certainly in colour, taking a closer look, there is some much darker stem material here, but it's largely uniform colour, which the kind you would expect with a black tea or, in fact, a dark tea. So, to part 3. Hi, welcome back to part 3 of our video. I'm quite excited to be introducing this part of our video because by the power of the magic of YouTube and editing a video, I was able to contact Eteaket between parts 2 and 1 and 3 of this video, and they were tremendously helpful in furbishing me with the details that we need to be absolutely clear about this tea. It would seem, from what I've already been able to experience of the tea just by its appearance and on the nose, that this is a little bit different to the Heukchas and Hwangchas that we've already looked at. Eteaket pointed out that this is technically what's called the Heukcha. I'm sure I've mispronounced that terribly, which makes it very firmly in the post-fermented tea category. And it's much more akin to a Chinese puer tea than anything else. So what we're going to do now is pour it out, take a closer look, and then we'll have some final thoughts about it. But once again, a big thank you to Eteaket for providing me with all the information that was needed. Once again, pre-steeped and pre-strained, so we don't need a strainer or anything. This was 1 gram per 100 mils. For 2 minutes at 100 degrees centigrade. It makes me wonder whether I should go back in my own time, not for review purposes, and take a look at the Heukcha and the Hwangcha and see what that's like at 100. As you can see, that's a deep, deep colour. It's also, I think it's also fair to say it's opaque. Not cloudy, I wouldn't go that far, but it's definitely opaque. It's a really hearty red colour, ruby colour. On the nose, it's sweet, it's fruity. I was picking up something like dark berries. But it's the brothy, mushroomy quality of puer tea. Mushroom is perhaps too strong a word, but it's intensely savoury. So there's fruitiness in there as well, but it's that intense savouriness. And perhaps with it being fermented, there is some sort of fungal quality coming through. Well, fermentation flavour profile coming through. But it's definitely much more akin to puer, but they're a lovely sweet and fruity one at the same time. So this is Heukcha, Korean Jeju from Eteaket. I'm just curious to know what it's like if I roll it around the cup. Do you know that is slightly viscous? It is leaving a slight film on the cup. It was pouring like that. It's savouriness that's coming through from the cup, but there is that wonderful sweetness to it. There's a lot less of the fruit on the taste. It's savoury, almost slightly salty. And I should know because I'm on an ultra-low salt diet, so I tend to notice if anything even seems salty. I'm not saying it is salty, because I'd have noticed that as well. Yeah. It's that brothy, savoury umami quality. But there is a lightness to it. There is a sweetness. The fruit isn't coming through as much, but it's not just a punch of savoury. There is something lightening it. Something fruity, something almost cereal-esque to it. Just something giving it a bit of sweet along with that umami. It's really good. I need to be careful. This is my third video this morning and I have 2 more. If I drink much more, if I drink any more tea greedily, my wife will have to scrape me off the ceiling by this evening. So, there is something light and fruity there. Just a slightly smaller mouthful and plenty of air. But if you want something like puer with that savoury, that umami, I think this would go down brilliantly as well. Does it taste good? Yes, I love dark teas. I haven't tried much with puer, not because I've anything against it, but because it's so mind-bogglingly complicated. I have enough to be going on with trying to keep up with oolongs from Taiwan and elsewhere. But flavour profile, if you want to try something post-fermented with a distinct kind of puer characteristic, but you want to try something off the beaten track, insofar as not a Chinese puer, I can heartily recommend this. If you want one with a bit of sweetness to it, just to lift that savouriness, I would go with this as well. Is it easy to prepare? Well, having double checked with Eteaket, it's good to get it straight from the source. So 2 minutes, 1 gram to 100 mils at 100 degrees. Very simple. Is it easy to get hold of? Well, I had no trouble getting hold, funnily enough, living in Scotland, I had no trouble getting hold of a tea from a Scottish company. I am sure that worldwide shipping is perfectly easily available from Eteaket. I have not checked whether it's possible to get this tea from elsewhere. I'm glad that Eteaket were able to confirm that this is what's called a Heukcha. I have a feeling that there was a lot of mislabeling, and there might be some Heukcha out there that's being confused with Heukcha, which, as we said before, is a more generic term for simply oxidized tea, as in anything that isn't green tea, in one sense. So, a few provisos in there, but a hearty recommendation from me. And once again, a big thank you to Eteaket if they ever watch this video. So all it remains for me to do is to say happy steeping and God bless.